Thank you, Wonged, with the 1 year of blasting dudes. Okay, this is the one that people have been telling me to look at. Okay, and then yeah, okay. This is a great look at Shadowlands Professions, a revamp, no RNG, classic inspired. Yeah, we'll see about that, buddy. We'll see about that.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Shadowlands video. So, professions, they've always been a part of WoW, but in times gone by, they were broader, they were less directed, they were a bit more important, and really that importance of professions has varied wildly over time. You know, at one time it was core to gearing, it was greatly important for, say, your pre-raid bis, but recently, though, with the raid tiers having their intent systems and gear sliding into the RNG ditch, you only really having 2 bits you could get from raids, professions have kind of been weird. They've taken a bit of a back seat, and rather than Blizzard designing them to have more interactions and systems, like an economy, they kind of redid them to be quest content in Legion, and then some of that design carried forward into BFA. It's all been a bit bizarre. So now that Shadowlands Alpha...
Bizarre as in fucking trash! Fucking trash! Nobody likes those professions!
...is here, I'm happy to say that I'm really excited now that I've seen what's up. Professions used to be one of the main things that I did, especially, oh man, the metagem markets of Wrath and Kata, the ore shuffles, oh, I loved it. Thus far, I can say this, the core of Shadowlands profession updates is pretty interesting, and it is optional reagents. You'll be able to add these when crafting your armor, and you could give that an increased item level, a guaranteed secondary stat, or a special effect. Yes, it's not RNG anymore. You know, that's 3 pretty cool things, and yes, it's just...
Wait, what? PH, customize the final output of the item craft, selecting a variety of optional reagents to change the stat outcome of your items. Guaranteed. You can fill 2 slots, 1 or none. 7 shrouded cloths. It's just actually kind of like, I don't know if this is going to be actually fossil crafting. Because it totally depends on what's the eye level. Like, does that mean you can get a high eye level base, scour it, and then recraft the stats? Surely not. Right? You can't, like, is there going to be a way you can fucking scour higher level, like, to get, like, oh, I've got this chest from Mythic Nyalotha. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my profession and I'm going to scour it and I'm going to redo it, like, with the stats that I want. It's not PvE. Well, no, but they're trying to, so it's not really like fossil crafting then. But I get, so you can guarantee an outcome based on the reagents that you put in. But the question is, can you... It doesn't matter, right? If you can customize a piece of gear, that's a piece of shit. It's still a piece of shit, right? So if you can't get if there's no way of making it good, right? Making the eye level relevant, making it have the the higher stat levels, it's still a shit system. So let's continue.
There's 3 boxes in the UI that may seem like a minor addition, but they've got the potential to solve just a whole bunch of persistent problems that crafting professions have had and really drag them into the modern day, freshen them up a bit. But there's even more because, we've also seen a bit of the classic influence on the professions as well as more interconnectedness between the professions that's also at the core of is like what's driving the optional reagents. So that's great. Plus, we've seen a whole bunch in the gear modification department, some of it with more of a classic flavor. So, yeah, let's just get into it. Let's actually look at how these systems are going to work. And I mean, man, this is really good stuff. I'm really excited. Okay, so you will open your UI and you will find the piece of gear that you want to craft. But
wait. If you could really customize your gear and actually make custom sets and have the eye level be relevant, like what I don't understand is it's still going to be ultimately the system's still going to be extremely flawed because it's just going to be a non-choice, isn't it? Because the itemization is so bad and WoW, well, so basic, right? So basic. Let's go with basic. It's going to be like, oh, let me just craft the one with the 2 stats that I want then. Let me just craft the one with the 2 stats that I want. And you're just going to you just do that with every fucking piece. And it's going to be, it's like, oh, I don't know. Unless they limit it to like 1 piece and then they create profession-only mods. Maybe they're going to give us profession-only mods. I can't really, because otherwise it comes it's a really boring Resident Sleeper system. I guess we'll see. Maybe if there's crafting specific mods, then that'll be cool.
What will be different is that, yes, it'll have its usual slots for its base materials, its ore, its cloth, whatever, but below that you'll see 3 optional reagent slots. Now, each one of these can fit a range of items that are crafted by other professions, and depending on the input, yes, you'll be able to change the stats on the crafted bit of gear that you're going to make. This is a direct way to affect the power of the gear that you make, as opposed to the RNG-based secondary stats, or maybe even the item level things that many crafts have had recently. Now, the optional reagents fall into 3 different categories, with each addressing a fundamental, I guess, problem that professions have faced. So the first increases its item level, whatever you're making. Now, this sort of engages with the problem of, you know, just crafted gear kind of being irrelevant at a certain point, right? Like in the past, an expansion would launch, you'd have all your base sets of gear you can make, and bar the raid-specific ones, I mean, all that stuff would just be completely pointless after a tier, right? It would become irrelevant so fast. And then all too often, just so many parts of the professions wouldn't...
With Mythic Plus, it becomes irrelevant almost, like, it's literally almost instantly irrelevant. It's like within the first 7 days. Like, it's a good thing to boost your character just in the first, like I think it's like literal days. Not even a week. Not even a week.
Really keep up to the patches. Well, if this stuff is supported throughout the patch cycle, and I think it would be, then yeah, we could have more longevity in our crafted gear, which would be really good. You know, you could have recipes from the base patch be augmented in, say, patch 9.2 with new reagents that bring them up to power, or maybe give you some new customization options. So there's that for item level. Then the second category will add a secondary stat, such as, you know, haste, crit, dodge, mastery, directly. And this steps away from the sometimes bewildering RNG of the last 2 expansions. I think this is the most practical part of the system for players, and it really does, like, just match up with Blizzard's wider plan for player agency. I think it's going to feel really nice. I mean, you know, you'll have that unpruned spell book, you won't be having Titan Forging in your gear, you'll have agency over your secondary stats for your crafts. That's really cool. Then the third category adds special effects to your armors, such as Beast Slayer on helms and bracers. It's kind of reminiscent of getting your set gloves in Wrath. So these special effects, they seem to have a fairly wide range of like, abilities or, you know, just effects, whatever, and they'll generally just give you a bit more flavor to your armor. Now, to get a full measure of these special effects and why players are going to, I think, be a little bit more friendly to each other, or at least have to rely on each other a bit more, let's just go and run through what we know about some of the professions so far. Okay.
Do you know what I think they need to do, bro? Like, I think this is all cool and everything, but I still think this is just fucking... It's gonna make professions slightly more useful, but it's not gonna really make them big dick. Honestly. Okay, bless me. Honestly, there should be fucking super rare recipes that drop off difficult bosses that are BOE that people could sell, guilds could sell, or they could use, and they can craft items that are like relevant items that you would want, right? So, for example, there could be a super rare recipe that drops off, like, I don't know, a fucking mythic boss, right? That hardly any guilds are killing, and they could get that recipe, and it requires an insane amount of materials. But if you're able to get those materials, you can craft an item, and then it can sell this really, really expensive item, and there can be a whole market around that. And it can be a massive sink for, like, certain ores. More RNG? No. It's kind of like... It's like, I'm talking like, rather than this like, oh, everyone can get every recipe, and everyone can craft all the mediocre gear, we just have mediocre crafting gear. Like, now with these changes that they're talking about right here, it means the mediocre gear is going to be like above average gear, and you can customize it a bit, but it still doesn't solve the inherent problem that like professions just don't feel good. And now if you could have like a really long progression system in terms of playtime and like farming for like getting a profession mastered, combined with having to put in a bunch of actual currency to make it work, kind of like in Classic, and then you could have like super good recipes, like items that are best for that raid tier, or maybe even more than one raid tier, that are super rare and require a fuck ton of mats, that would make professions actually cool again, man. Like, that's, I mean, it's obviously, they've got to do a lot of changes, though, but it would be, imagine, dude, imagine, okay, Method kills, like, mythic fucking Shahrazad, right, for example. Some item drops, and it's like it can craft a one-handed mace, and that one-handed mace, so mythic Shahrazad, Do you not understand, chat? What are you going on about? So Mythic kills Mythic Asharazar, okay? And then once Asharazar dies, she drops a recipe for a one-handed mace, and that mace is the same eye level as the Mythic boss they just killed. Now, it requires, like, 1,000 fucking ores, which would tally up to, like, I don't know, fucking 500,000 gold, 1,000,000 gold. I'm talking, like, a fuck ton of gold, and maybe even one soul-bound ingredient, which, like, would be time-gated, and you have to farm out. For example. Okay, so pay to win. Not pay to win. Oh my god, dude. It's not pay to win. It's like making professions relevant again. Like crafting items that actually have use. That are actually people seek. Like, oh, I'm going to save up my money and I'm going to get this fucking weapon. For example, people used to get Arcanite Reaper in Classic. Even, I wouldn't say Arcanite Reaper was even relevant enough. I don't even think Arcanite Reaper was relevant enough. I think it was back in the day because people were so bad at progressing and everything. But now in modern WoW, it would need to be like mythic tier loot. Like it would have to be equal to a piece of gear that drops from a mythic raid boss, right? Lionheart Helm would be an example. Well, I don't know. Permabus sounds bad. Permabus would be bad. I don't think Permabus would be worth. But I think 100%. Best for that raid tier or equal to whatever the drop. It would be like on the same level as Mythic raiding gear or the highest tier of PvP gear or the highest tier of Mythic Plus gear. Do you understand? Pay to win good. Oh my.
Okay, so only certain crafting professions will be using optional reagents, but every profession will be able to make them. So to increase the item level of a recipe, you'll need a word.
Wait, what the fuck are you saying? Are you saying that you just remove all BOEs? Yeah, there's a fucking WoW token, you fucking retards. Yeah, there's a fucking WoW token, right? But you could also just buy gold. You could just also just buy gold. What are you even on about? By your logic, chat, they should just remove all crafting and they should remove all BOEs because it's pay to win.
Coward!
Like, are you slow in the fucking hit? Are you slow in the fucking hit? Do you understand what kind of reductive reasoning you're using? Do you understand what you're saying? Like, oh, if they make professions good, it's just going to be pay to win.
Shut the fuck up! You're useless!
You clearly don't understand what they need to. I mean, in my opinion, they should just remove the fucking WoW token and just police gold selling better, right? That, in my opinion, that's the best thing, and then they can do all the shit, right? But obviously, that's not going to happen. The genie's out of the bottle at this point. The genie's, we're fucked at that point. But you get that. Regardless, okay, with WoW tokens, yes, there's going to be some people that could basically buy this gear with real money, but that would be a super tiny minority, right? That'd be a super tiny minority. The rest of us would just farm gold and then, play the game and actually just buy shit. Like, and it would just make professions good again. But okay, let's continue.
Of power, and that's them. Crafting professions will be using optional reagents, but every profession will be able to make them. So to increase the item level of a recipe, you'll need a word of power, and that's from Inscription. For a socket, you'll need a jewel crafter to make you a jewel cluster. The special effect reagents are where like the professions, like economy is really going to take off here, I think, and it's just going to be a lot more interconnected. So alchemy, right? They've got concoctions for the cloaks, where your cloak can actually extend the duration of your flask effects and well-fed bonuses, a really big goal saver. Then blacksmiths will be able to add slayer augments to helms and bracers.
Peace Slayer's Charm, the optional reagent, can be crafted into a piece of armor, causing the wearer to deal more damage to beasts. An optional reagent that crafted into a piece of armor, causing the wearer to deal more damage to aberrations.
Those can increase the damage to humanoids, aberrations, beasts, or undead. There's then the, I think, Listerite spikes. Now, these will occasionally just deal some additional damage. And right now, we don't know much about enchanting yet, but what's there seems...
What the fuck? Enchanting only for shoulders. Instantly blast a target with force, dealing 94 physical damage. Instantly blast a target with ice, dealing 94 frost damage, 94 fire damage. What the fuck? So I guess it could be best for certain fights. So maybe like you've got a humanoid bracer that you put on when you're fighting a humanoid boss, for example, and then maybe you've got a beast boss and you can put that on for that particular boss. I mean, it seems interesting. I wouldn't mind having like a beast set, a humanoid set, and like having the various I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't necessarily mind that. That'd be a kind of point of min maxing.
Seems exciting. So right now, these effects only seem to be available for the enchants on these shoulder slots, and they're things like adding damaging magical effects. One of them is a Burst of Cold, which also applies a slow. Now that could be really cool. It'd be great to see what else is planned, but so far just the promise of these is so good for me. I mean, think about, maybe your last minute arena play. If you've got that shoulder effect, maybe it's a 5-yard blink or a long cooldown counter spell, they could add a little bit more in there and it could be exciting. But that's not it, because moving past the optional reagents, well, there's something a little bit more...
Where's the 5-yard blink? Is that a thing? Was that in there? I didn't see that. Where was the 5-yard blink? I want that on my red paladin. That sounds overpowered as fuck. That seems overpowered as fuck. Imagine you're casting a spell and there's a red paladin slowly walking towards you and you're like, I'm gonna get this cast off. Fucking blink. Punch him in the fucking throat, dude.
Classic feeling. So early data mining revealed a bunch of old school feeling things like weapon oils and sharpening stones. They seem to just be minor stat increases, but yeah, they'll add another important interaction for blacksmiths and for alchemists as an example. Now on that, the alchemists actually seem to be getting a fairly unique thing going on with their potions, some of which have actually got...
Yeah, I gotta read this. I'm sorry, Chad. I gotta read this. It's just data mine somewhere. I've just gotta read it because I can see it here. Your attack spells have a chance to send out a fiery projection at your target, dealing 0 fire and shadow damage. If you consume this potion while your weapon is augmented with Shadow Core Oil, the additional damage is increased by 10%. Last 25 seconds. Potion of Fathom Fire? Potion of Divine Awakening. Your healing spells increased by up to 0 based on the target's missing health. If you consume this potion while your weapon is augmented with the Bomber's Oil, the additional healing is increased by 10%. Last 25 seconds. That seems kind of like... That seems kind of shit. Seems kind of shit. I'm going to be honest, that seems kind of shit. 10% increase on a proc, that doesn't seem that good. I mean, we don't know what, unless the proc's absolutely insane. So it's like a pot that you put... so you lube up your weapon, and then you can use a pot like that. But surely another on-use pot would be better than that. An extra, I'm going to use this pot and get an extra 0.3 DPS. Yeah, exactly.
Alchemists actually seem to be getting a fairly unique thing going on with their potions, some of which have actually got bonus effects if...
Okay, your next 4 mana-consuming spells and abilities will consume 7% of your health instead of using mana? What the fuck? If you consume this potion while your weapon is augmented with the Bomber's Oil, the amount of health consumed is decreased by 2%. So is that for a healer, to cast some really, really expensive spell? Bomber's Oil. Yeah. Your damaging spells and abilities have a chance to erupt your target's anima, dealing 0 damage, shadow damage to all enemies within 10 yards. If you consume this potion while the weapon is augmented with Shadow Coil, the additional damage is increased by 20%. So that's a cleave one. Okay.
If your weapon is using a certain type of oil. So there's that going on.
What about the blood magic
for
one?
The enchants, well, we're back to having chest, cloak, boot, bracer, glove, and weapon enchants. That's way more slots, way more ways to customize your character. A lot more than BFA, that's for sure.
Better.
And that'll just give enchanters so much more to do. Then for the engineers, they're once again getting belt enchants, and then...
No, what did I do? Where'd it go? No. Oh, fuck, where did it go? Enchanting. Waystone, alchemy. Well, I want to see the engineer one. I gotta see the engineer one. Dude, go back to the engineer one. Did I lose the engineer one? Leatherworking. Enchant. Okay.
Slots, way more ways to customize your character. A lot more than BFA, that's for sure. And that'll just give enchanters so much more to do. Then for the engineer...
What the fuck? Damage Retaliator. Okay, permanently attach this device to your belt that, when activated, magnetically suspends several small bladed weapons around you, causing any attackers to take damage. 5-second cast. Electro Jump permanently attaches a miniature wormhole generator to your belt, allowing you to instantaneously teleport a short distance. Is it going to be usable in Arena? I wonder. 5-yard blink. That's the thing, because at the end of the day, what's going to give me more utility in PvP? A 5-yard blink on my belt or a fucking nitro boots? The nitro boots, I feel, would be better in the situation, right? Because you could, you know, run 30 yards with them. You know, it's like cast. Yeah, so the nitro boots are on your belt, guys. You can't have both. The nitro boots are on your belt. Are you slow?
Engineers, I mean, they're once again getting belt-in chance, and then leather workers.
Okay, drums of deadly ferocity increases haste by 50% of the time party. As receding, this buff will become exhausted. I mean, we've already got that.
While they do have nerf drums, which is a little bit sad, they do also get new armor kits going on.
Increase the stamina of an item on chest. Increase the stamina. I mean, okay.
Now, much of this is stuff that was normal back in the day, but was just removed, right, in the name of streamlining, with the power bonuses that sort of came from all those enchants and things being moved away from the professions, which was a player-driven system, and just into RNG and Titan Forging, right, out of the player's hands.
Fuck that.
So with these changes, I think we'll have a more vibrant economy as well. That'll be really important for creating gameplay. So yeah, let's talk about the wider economy.
I like all this little bullshit because it gives you more avenues to min-max, and it separates. Obviously, they don't want this. It separates the casuals from the people who try hard even more, right? So the degree of separation is larger, which means you can just fucking shit on people way harder. You know, because if you know what you're doing and you've got all the correct enchants and you've optimized your character properly, the more avenues where you can basically min-max, the better, in my opinion. That's coming from an elitist cunt that just wants to shit on a bunch of noobs, though.
Changes, I think, could shake up the economy real hard and hopefully will give us more avenues to make some money. We'll have craftable items that will remain relevant for longer in an expansion, and that means that the underlying economy will actually last longer. Then agency and what stat we put on our gear, that removes some RNG frustrations, lets us target stat compositions, and again, all those optional reagents themselves, they're made from raw materials, and that just adds even more interactions into the economy, which I think is a very healthy thing indeed. Yep. Certainly, the further we get away from that oversimplified abomination that was Warlords of Draenor crafting, the better, for sure. So yeah, I mean, look, we will have to consider how all of this stuff will combine and actually work, but between this stuff and the new revamped auction house, I think we're in for a way better gold-making experience than we've had, wow, I mean, in quite some time indeed. But as good as all of that, I think, absolutely does sound just at face value, there is still due diligence that we've got to do with the alpha, right? We still need to ask those questions, and we need to critique things when they appear. So, you know, how will the optional reagents actually work when they go live? What will they do to the economy? You know, how does engineering more fit into all of this? I mean, we haven't seen that much of it yet. It's certainly...
Make engineering great again. Allow people to use engineering items in Arena, dude. Like, what the fuck? Let us use engineering in Mythic Raids, bitch. Let us use it in fucking raid. I mean, would that just result in, like, what happens in Classic WoW, where everyone's, like, engineering? Because they need to throw separate charges? Who gives a fuck, dude? Who gives a fuck? That means you can go big dick and not go engineering, dude. I want to be an engineer and have my engineering shit be used in all content. Oh, I would just fucking love that, dude. Actually, to be honest, if everyone had nitro boots, it would be pretty unethical. Right? It would be pretty unethical. Imagine if entire raids could all nitro boot. Right? Imagine if entire raids could all, like, blink an entire mechanic. But, dude, as an engineer, I don't give a fuck, dude. I don't give a fuck.
It does seem like the perfect profession for a system like the optional reagents. Then how will the balance go? Right? Will the raw materials be absurdly expensive? Will people feel like they need to get tokens to do raids? Will the magical effects be overpowered? Will they be meta-defining? Well,
dude, this is a good idea. Imagine if you could get a token from a boss, right? Like, imagine if you could break down a piece of mythic gear. I mean, this is basically, I'm asking for a scouring orb, right? I'm asking for a scouring orb. So imagine if you could get, like, a piece of mythic gear of mythic Nyalotha, like a mythic chest, and you could break it down into a token form or into, like, into some sort of reagent, which you could socket into the crafted gear, and then you could craft at that eye level, or maybe 5 below that eye level. Whatever, you get the idea, right? So you could literally recraft a piece of gear that has dropped. Now, there would have to be, like, a limit on how many pieces of gear like that you can use. Otherwise, you would just literally have a perfectly high eye-level base-in-slot version of every item. But it would still be fucking awesome, dude. It would still be fucking awesome. Like, it would be... Because what I'm worried is, it doesn't matter. If they add in, like, the ability to create custom items, but they're all dog shit, and they're just not usable outside of the first week of playing the game, then it's irrelevant, right? So you have to create gear which is relevant and like people are going to want to use in in-game content.
Will they homogenize classes too much, or would they just be so weak the whole system is trivial? And then even past that whole system, what about archaeology? I mean, come on, few things in WoW have got so much promise, but such a boring delivery. And then finally, and I know this is not really that feasible, but I just want to say this, put it out there, I'd love to be able to change my armor's appearance via professions. Things like, can I craft a little belt pouch, like a little add-on? Maybe tint changes. I mean, maybe we could get some tintable armor that the crafting professions could make and then could be dyed and changed.
Tintable
that
armor?
Could be really cool.
Dude, what are you talking about? That's like killing. They can reskin an armor. They can, you know, tint an armor and then label it as a new transmog. Okay, they're not going to allow players to tint themselves, dude. That's like 5 new armor sets just getting deleted.
Then I think another thing I'd like to know is what's their plan for profession content. You know, will we once again be doing Legion style questing? Will we get patch 8.1 style questing? Hard to know. One thing as well for me, bop materials. They can be a pain in the ass, and I've disagreed with bop materials being real since the Motes of Harmony and Mists of Pandaria, which initially were bop, and that mostly killed profession gameplay for me. And the same goes for Expulsum. Oh, I'd love to see Blizzard embrace professions as their own type of gameplay and just the economy being a really important thing, and maybe allow players to...
He doesn't like bop items because obviously it forces you to actually do work, right? It actually forces you to do some sort of it limits how much you can craft based on your playtime, right? And then it also time gates. So you can't fucking push out like millions and millions of items. He wants to be rich. No, which is why I think they should... I agree in the respect that making bop materials is shit, but I agree in the fact that professions cunts should have to invest a bunch of time in order to make their profession good if they want to be a master in that profession. So they should shift the time out of the reagents and push it into like crazy rep grinds or fucking nutty, it's like extremely expensive to level up, what requires a long time to level up via, like, you know, I'm talking like kind of like Classic, right? To like master blacksmithing in Classic, it was not easy. It was not easy, right? I would prefer they shift that time requirement into actually progressing your profession versus making all the reagents have like a, you know, oh yeah, by the way, to make this item, you've got to go out and farm some bullshit reagent, which is like time gated, which is dumb. Right? Grind. Yeah, grinding's good, dude. Grinding's good. What do you mean? That's the whole point. The whole point of like playing an MMORPG is to grind, dude. What do you want about? You understand that's what you play the game for, right?
Sell Expulsum, right? Just buy it from another player. I mean, hell, I'm sure the many players who don't want to do crafting but do get Expulsum would love to be able to sell it to a crafter. That would just make the economy a bit more efficient. And then there is finally one thing, Torghast. So I don't know how much is tied into it right now, but there's a lot of potential, right? The potential for Torghast specific things is massive. Torghast food, Torghast potions, all things that could be wacky and overpowered and crazy. I just love to see some experimentation on that front. And actually then, on that topic, you know, we will be able to craft our own legendaries in this expansion. And while that system's not in the game yet, from what Blizz have said, I actually do imagine we'll be using something very similar to this optional reagent system.
I think that's what they designed the system.
That's based on what we know so far, where it seems like we can make a legendary for whatever slot we want, and then we can customize that legendary with, like, its own effects. And that itself is a massive win for player agency. It's one that I think, well, I'm very confident that would feel far better than Legion's just random as hell acquisition. So there you go. That's pretty much it for our first look at professions. It is all super early right now. We will have to wait a bit longer just to see what makes it onto subsequent builds, but I mean, rest assured, once professions are fully testable, we will be giving you a big deep dive look into them. But for now, look, I am happy that there is less RNG, that we've got more control over our stats. The promise of a more vibrant economy is genuinely exciting to me, and there is nothing I would love more than to be able to go back to, you know, doing my ore shuffles, right? Having a bunch of max level characters for all my professions. That seriously drove weeks of gameplay for me back in the day. And I guess just that simplification and sort of reduction of interactions within the economy that happened over years and years, and the bind on pick up materials, that just eroded the profession gameplay for me so much. So just the prospect of some of that being more of a thing you can do now, that really does get me excited. So yeah, there you go. That's it for me. Let me know, what do you think about professions, and what would you like to see for professions? Let me know in those comments down below. Thank you very much for watching this video, and with that,
yep.
I'll see you next time.
It's a good video. It's a good video. Just wanted to get a couple extra pauses in there. Get a couple extra pauses in there. Ore shuffling, by the way, guys, if you don't know, it's like, well, you buy ore, and then you can, like, you smelt it, right? And then you craft it, and then you enchant it, or you disenchant it, and you sell it. Yeah, and then you can even do shit where you, what I did was I bought herbs. Okay? I milled herbs. Get this, right? I milled herbs. Okay? I milled herbs. And then I turned it into inks. And then I turned the inks, get this, into glyphs. I bet no one ever thought about doing that. Okay, I bet no one ever thought of doing that. Okay, let's actually play the game, though.